Rubber his wound, yeah.
My birthday. I had
Good evening and welcome back to our 24-hour marathon of the budget. Bruce, where are we going next?
I hope it's not that long, but yes, if you go to page 2 of the capital list, there's not a lot of changes. We still have the vehicles for Parks and Rec, which would be leases. We have the swing set in there for Veterans Park. So your new one-time capital request for this fiscal year is $525,000 between all the different departments. And then you go into personnel request, and you can see currently we've only proposed to fund the assistant city engineer, which would be hired in January of 2026. So that's funding for 1.5 year. And then the 5 patrol officers, there again, that would be hired January of 2026. Actually, there's a third one, the streets stormwater manager, which half of that cost is split with the stormwater fund, is also in there. So your total personnel costs are $448,905. So when you go down to the bottom, you've got your carryover items, your fund balance items, your existing bond items, your new capital one-time request and personnel request. The grand total for the new request is $974,505. And as you look across the grid there, you can see the totals for future years, and you can see how the changes that we've already discussed with the different departments, how those are going to come in play in future years. So on the next page, page 3, you've got the State Street Aid Fund, which we're looking at, and Danielle went over some of this already. The street paving, we've increased this year to $1.16 million. The guardrail project on Old Waldron Road is a special project. That's that $29,000 project. And there again, we just bid out the guardrails. That will be on, the bid will be on this next BOMA meeting. So that price could change depending on what the new bid costs are. So that'll have to be figured out as well.
That little bit of guardrail they put up out there by Arbor Ridge cost $29,000.
No, sir. This is on Old Waldron Road.
Oh, on Old Waldron Road.
Yes, sir. It's that corner.
Oh, around by the. Okay, I'm with you now.
Where that drop-off is.
Yeah, I got
We've
you.
had a couple of cars over the years go off that.
Mike, I don't remember how many feet that is. It's a couple hundred feet.
I think so. I do not remember off the top of my head, but I expect the cost to be quite a bit less based off the recent bid opening versus the quote we received here.
Okay.
Hey, I remember a young kid back when me and Tom coached ball. His mom run off that culvert, and it threw him out of the top of a van and landed on him. There used to be a plaque at the park. It did. It threw him out of the van. The top of the van came completely off.
Wow.
Landed on him, and we put a plaque up at the park. I don't know whatever happened to it. Yeah, I remember that.
Wow. If you look at the Equitable Sharing Fund, the 3 items listed there, the patrol rifle replacements, which is a 3-year project, 25 per year for 3 years. You've got the radio replacements for $375,000, and then the emergency communications upgrades for $327,000, which is much needed to the dispatch area. If you go down to the stormwater fund, you've got the carryover item for the replacement dump truck, which Danielle mentioned, and then there have a personnel request, which is the streets and stormwater supervisor that I mentioned earlier, that is split with the general fund. That's the other half of that.
How will that work, if you don't mind me asking logistically? You have a streets and stormwater supervisor. So I know we've got someone kind of managing stormwater, and then I think we have a streets manager or lead right now. But I want to say stormwater reports up to engineering, and streets would report through Michael Dietz. So how would
Yes.
that work?
So we've been discussing this for quite a while internally, and the decision has been made to restructure since we're all in one building now. And logistically, it just makes sense for stormwater to fall under Public Works. So with them doing so, that's gonna take our staff, our budgeted positions to just one shy of 50. And that's a lot of personnel to manage as far as direct reports. So our goal is to have a manager over the stormwater and street side, and then a manager on the utility side, which would oversee and work with the direct supervisors on daily operations.
And I will say some of the stormwater is still in engineering, which would be the stormwater coordinator position, which is more of an office position. What he's talking about is the labor positions with the supervisors, kind of like your water, labor, sewer, labor division.
Yeah.
And then you'll still have the stormwater inspector that would be in engineering. So it's mainly the labor portion of the stormwater, which is most of your stormwater department.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they would still work like currently Alex puts in work orders for different items to be worked. She hypothetically would still put those in, and then that would go to that team to then go do.
100%, yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
Sounds like they got it worked out.
It's been in discussion for quite some time. So that's it for the Stormwater Fund. Next is the Street Capital Projects, where you have the carryover item for the CMAC grant for the Advanced Traffic Management System, which that 204 is the city's portion. Then you have the other projects, the Blair Road West and the South Waldron Road that we've discussed. And if you look at 25-26 and 26-27, that's right at $25 million worth, which is what that bond issue will be going to pay for the first 2 years. And then we would have to do another bond issue for 27-28 for the remainder of the South Waldron Road project, because that's almost another $25 million there. Next is the Parks Capital Projects Fund, and you can see what David was talking about earlier with the Brookside Park and the football field LED lighting. The Greenway extension has pushed back a year just because of lack of funding. And so that total new request for this year is the $265,000. The Police Impact Fee Fund at the bottom of page 3, you've got the 5 pursuit vehicles for the police department, and then the radios for the new officers, which Danielle mentioned earlier in the operating.
Can we move the soccer park up from 28-29 to 26-27?
Right now, I don't know.
Because from what I heard, the Greenway extension is all but a dead subject.
It's not dead, it's just not guaranteed.
Well, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, I don't know if it's never gonna be feasible, but at this point, you know, if we had to push something out, our needs right now are greater than that is, with that not being guaranteed. The soccer park has been kept getting pushed out because soccer's never got off the ground in Laverne. Hopefully that will change here shortly, because it's coming back before you guys next month. The YMCA's plan now is to, I think they go up to 10 years old. When those kids age out of the fields that we have, they're planning to move that group back to the Sam Wrigley location, the older kids, because we don't have facilities to accommodate the older kids right now. At some point, we would like to see that, a big soccer complex. I don't know if our thoughts internally are, if we can't get baseball and softball to succeed here and soccer takes off, We've got 8 fields up there. What's the possibility of taking some of those fields and converting them to a full-size soccer field? I think in the long run, that would be more feasible, that'd be more cost-effective. I think you get more bang for your buck. I think soccer's gonna blow up. You know, we've tried several leagues in here changed hands 6, 7 times over 12 years, and nothing's ever taken off. So I don't know if travel ball's killed it. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
I think it's just, with our diversity and ethnic groups and so on and so forth, that soccer is just, but,
I think at some point, Vice Mayor, we are gonna have to address how we are gonna expand soccer, because I think we all know, once it comes in here, it's gonna take off. And if we get those kids started at 3, and then they age out at 10 or 11, we definitely don't want them to go somewhere else and play. You know, within 20 minutes of here, there's 2 nice soccer complexes. If I was a parent and I lived in Laverne and I had a kid playing soccer, I'd want to keep them home. It's just more convenient for everybody. But cost of everything, I don't envy you guys. My homeowner's insurance went up $800 a year. I can remember when it was $800 a year. So,
Car
So-
insurance too.
yeah.
oh, I know.
So
That's-
we'd definitely answer your question. I'm not trying to be cute. We'd definitely love to see that moved up. But then I look at the budget and I see the needs of other departments too. And I think, several years ago, I think probably what helped you guys out and what helped all the staff out was we started trying to compile a budget internally to present to you guys. That kept, you know, when we had to label things, what's 1, 2, 3, what's 4, 5, 6, we did that internally, so what we presented to you guys was pretty much what we thought could work with. But yeah, we definitely love to see it move up.
Well, I mean, you know, if we move it up and then we see that it's not gonna happen, we can always move it back out, can't we?
And it is, actually, it's really only 3 years down the road now, 25, 26, it's in 28.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be super positive and say that in the next couple of months, we're gonna find out.
Oh, I think by the end of their fall season, which runs through October, we're gonna know if it's gonna be a success here in Laverne. I do not see it not being a success because the facilities we provide them are far better than what they're at right now. And you're kind of bringing a turnkey organization over that's gonna open it up to our kids too. So I only think it's gonna grow.
And then we should probably know a determination on the Greenway extension by then, or is that still gonna be going back and forth at the time?
Well,
Yeah.
Greenway project, we still gotta get it approved, and the plans up to standard for the Army Corps engineer.
yeah, they won't give you an answer.
That's what we're working for, and that's why I asked for, funds for this current fiscal year. We were supposed to meet on Monday, but we didn't have quorum. But I'm hoping that we can meet next month. I get it with the holiday and things might have been stressful, but I'm hoping to meet possibly next month so we can discuss the plan, get it rolling, get it to the architect, and get something formal for the Army. That's my goal. I'm just
Well,
talking out loud.
and I don't want to catch you off guard, Alderman Hobbs, because I think it was discussed at the last budget to maybe table that for a while, just due to funding. I had Gary and Kyle kind of save me a little bit. I think there's no guarantee if we get the architect and the engineer involved and we get the plans designed, I think there's no guarantee that the Corps is gonna sign off on it. We think they will, but are we gonna throw good money after bad? And then 4 or 5 years down the road, we're gonna have to come up with $2 million minimum to even get this project off the ground.
Is there an actual person that you can go to and give them the ideas and they give you some sort of positive or negative about maybe getting that through, or do you?
Oh, we have had meetings with the Corps, and they were positive. But then you have to go through the steps of having the engineering done, and by the time we get that done, I think the engineering firm was gonna charge us, what we originally thought we could pay for it was gonna be quadruple the cost. So we kind of backed off of that a little bit because we were kind of in a stalemate with them. I think we've had good talks with the Corps over the years. We have not talked to them in probably a year and a half. But that's like anything else. Years ago, there wasn't a good relationship there. Personnel changed, relationships got better. As time goes on, those may change again, and then you're back to square one.
It's about every 6 years or so, they change out who's in charge with the Corps of Engineers at the local level. What David was talking about is, in our last sheet, our last workshop meeting, we had the Parks Capital. And Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like $573,000 over funds available, roughly. And so it's trying to figure out basically where to balance that. We talked about football lighting with the LEDs. We talked about Brookside Park, the Greenway. Bruce, what was the fund that I kept messing up the name? Where there was a little bit of funds that was possible to use with that. That basically got us to the point where we're balanced with this one, with the two projects we've got.
I'm not sure,
The Parks Capital Fund, was that it?
or maybe been the impact fees. I'm not sure.
It's one of those.
To me, this deal about we can't do this unless we got that, and we can't, it's a greenway in a flood zone, take a D3 down through there, let Michael and them lay some blacktop, put out a bench, and be done, but we need somebody to physically talk to, send somebody to them, somebody that, Kyle would be a good person, maybe,
We've already talked to them, and what we're at basically is at $410,000 to get the plans to a point that are acceptable to them, to where they would even let us discuss with real estate to give us or grant us the easement. If they grant us the easement, then we can do the project. Well, we don't have to do any more work to the plans, but if we don't have $1.9 million to do the project, then we're sitting on plans. And if we sit on plans for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, what is the change in the ground out there that we end up, we got to have a redesign in spots, or we end up with a bunch of change orders because the plans are old. And then on top of that, that 1.9 figure was probably a 2-year-old figure by this point. So it could be 2.5 right now. We would have to get to the final design to be able to get you a better cost and more accurate. So what we're saying is pretty much if we're willing to come up with the $2 million, or whether it be $3 million to actually do the project, then yes, I would recommend going ahead with it. But what are we going to cut from all these other items?
what's this 410,000? Is that
It's just to do the engineering.
just for the engineering?
Yes.
You're an engineer, Gary's an engineer.
Not that time.
Copious amounts of spare time, we'll jump all over that.
So, and the other part of it is, I don't know if you've walked down that section, because people do still walk down it. It's not just blacktop. There's probably going to be a bridge or two, and that's more money.
I know, I've been dealing with it since 18, because there's absolutely zero, and I mean zero, common sense in government. Everything's got to be done by
It's all the different
that
regulations,
just wears me out. because
state,
it's-
federal.
Yeah, I get it, I understand, but just, and I'm sure there's no grants for a greenway. Nobody's gonna give you money to build in a swamp.
Varies depending on the administration.
There was a grant that we used for the first, but that was all the way back to Bart Gordon's when I first got here. That was money left over from,
The 90s or
yeah,
early 2000s.
somewhere.
But like I said, move up soccer.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna voice my own personal opinion on grants. They're great when you can get them. They're great if they're funded 100%. If it's in your percentage and you have to, and you're relying on their approval to move forward, you guys, just for instance, you guys approved our contractor for Brookside
You
at
learned
the
that
last
from
meeting.
Brookside, didn't you?
Well, we're still waiting on the state to approve the contractor so they can move forward. So they were ready to break ground the very next day. We still haven't gotten the go-ahead from the state that, yes, they can't do any work out there until the state says they can do work. And you see how, this has been going on since 2020. And my personal opinion is if it was us doing that park, we could have already had it done at half the cost of what it's costing us now.
Like I said,
There's a cost to everything, yes, sir.
Thanks,
Thank you.
David.
well, I didn't mean to cause a big fuss, I just want soccer. But then again, a lot of people like walking the Greenway and going down to the lake, so.
Okay, so that completes page 3. If you go to page 4, you've got the fire impact refund, which you have the carryover for the turnout gear, which Danielle mentioned, and then there's a new request for a fire extinguisher training prop for $20,000. So those are the two items requested in that fund. Then you get down into water and sewer fund. You've got 3 carryover items: the automatic transfer switch replacement at the water intake, new coagulant pumps, and the Waldron Road pump station rehab, which is already being worked on. Then you get into the new request for the water plant. You've got the new side weir box coating and an arc flash study that we're still waiting on the quote for. And then down under the sewer department, you've got a new camera truck and a lift station technician vehicle, new Ford Transit van. And then there's the one personnel request for a utilities manager, which kind of goes hand in hand with what Mike was talking about a few minutes ago, for oversight purposes. So you look at your totals for water and sewer, you've got your carryover, your new capital, and your personnel request. The total new request is $548,801. And that's pretty much all that there is for the capital items list.
What's a fire extinguisher training prop?
It's a prop. It's a fire extinguisher. I use it for training. Is that about right, Chief?
Sums it up. It is a propane-fed fire extinguisher prop, so we don't have to take hydrocarbons, diesel, gasoline, put it on the ground and use a live fire extinguisher. We'll be able to utilize that for Andrew's safety committee within city employees. We can use it with our private industry, our schools, any place within the city to educate civilians on how to use fire extinguishers for gasoline fires, trash can fires, or even, I believe, a stovetop fire.
Bruce?
Well, we can either talk about the general fund operating, or we can talk about the fee schedule. Which would y'all prefer? I don't know that there's many major changes to the general fund operating. I do know there's a few changes. One was in the fire department. And there's no,
Yes, it went from 190 to 235,000 for Kelly Days.
Oh, is that with the state change?
Sir?
Was that with the Kelly Days, a state change? Ronnie, I know you were mentioning earlier today about one. That's not it?
No, sir, it's not.
Okay.
the Kelly Days, it's basically doing away with Kelly Days. And we'll be paying overtime for people to work instead of that day off. So scheduling-wise, it'll make things a lot easier. There's no page number, but it's 42,200, 122 is where that line item is. It's about halfway through the document there.
41, 200?
42,200,
42, 200.
that third column over. 42,200. And then the object code is 122, which is overtime. And you can see the increase there to
We
235,000.
get way over here. Okay.
But as you go through, if you have any questions about any of these line items, feel free to contact Danielle or myself, and we will try to let you know what each line item is for. Because obviously there's a lot in here.
And there, it's also hyperlinked. You can, when you're going through it, you can kind of see the yellow ones, the blue. So I'll include that also. That coincides with Bruce's capital listing.
Any immediate questions on anything? Okay, we can talk about the fee schedule, which is this document.
Yeah, there's a few changes I've requested with it.
There's a few changes throughout that have been recommended by different departments. We'll kind of go through those. On page 1, there are no proposed changes there, which is for the city recorder department, which is mostly applications and whatnot. Page 2 gets into the codes department fees. There's no proposed changes to the impact fees, because we just made the changes there. If you go down to the bottom of page 2, you can see it highlighted in that light green. We're looking at some changes to our building permits. The current rate is 35 cents per square foot. The proposed rate is 38 cents per square foot. We've added in a reinspection fee for times that they have to go out and reinspect a building. We don't currently have that fee in our schedule. And then we've increased the deck permits from $50 to $100, the driveway permits from $60 to $100, and on the top of page 3, the fence permit from $60 to $100.
Bruce, do you hear that noise?
I do, and I'm not sure what it is.
They're like a dog barking. How does these compare to other cities, or do we know?
I have to defer to Joe on some of these because these are codes department fees.
Do you know, Joe?
I mean, it's hard to say because our fee schedule's a little different and everybody's is. And the way our fee schedule is calculated, you kind of just have to look at the other surrounding communities and try to get it as close as you can. But yeah, it's pretty comparable with what's in the surrounding area.
All right, I was just curious. That's a little dab of extra money.
Okay, Bruce, you want to keep walking through?
Thank you, Joe.
Did you hear it in
Something in the fan above us. You can't hear it anywhere else other than just right up ahead.
there? Okay, it's ghosts, I guess.
What is it?
It's ghosts.
Yeah.
It's an
Bigfoot.
old building, so you know.
David, just so you know, for maintenance tomorrow. Please.
It's probably that water fountain out there gurgling.
Towards the bottom of page 3, in yellow, you have a highlighted line item for the mobile food service permit. The application fee, this is one that the mayor had requested us to look at. This fee is actually higher than several of the municipalities around us, so it's up to the board if you want to increase that. We don't know what to increase that to, but I think, Joe, you said it's $50 to $75 currently in other locations, so we're already above that.
Just know we're a hot spot for food trucks lately, so they keep popping up everywhere, so.
If we were to raise that, would that be included in like park events and food trucks at parks and stuff?
If we have an event and they are permitted, they are welcome to come, no charge. Their permit generally covers them for a year.
No, what I'm saying is if we raise this mobile food service permit, I get what Mayor Cole is kind of advocating towards these trucks that are just parked here and there. Whereas if we invite food trucks to come to the park that don't normally park around here,
They've typically gone through that process.
they wouldn't have to pay that, would they?
Because there's a safety portion of it as well. They typically do pay.
Yes, sir. So when they get permitted through the city, Parks generally gets a list of all vendors that have current food permits, and those permits are generally good for a year. So we try to pull from that list. Somebody contacts us for an event and they are not permitted, we forward them to codes. And the last several years, we haven't had an issue getting food truck vendors to our events. I don't think raising the fee, if that's what you guys want to do, is gonna deter us from still getting them. Generally, we try to limit our food vendors to 2 of one kind per event, 2 barbecue, 2 ice cream, so we're not having 5 or 6 of the same one competing for the same business.
So I guess I'm still not getting my point across here. Your food trucks, vendors that come to your events are normally pretty much all the same ones.
Correct.
Not always, but pretty much all of them. But the ones that are just sit up randomly around town, that are doing their thing around town, can we raise their permits but not the food vendor at the park events?
I don't
think you
that's
would probably have to do uniforms across the board.
All right.
I want to say Mount Juliet tried to do something where they were specific to certain food trucks, and they wound up getting a very nasty lawsuit from it and had to take it, basically rescinded back.
So I guess leave it as such.
One thing you may want to consider to point out, some communities only allow food trucks for special events.
So I don't know, I'm glad you brought this up, or whoever did.
Bruce,
Before you came here, there was one on every corner. And it's been, what, 3, 4 years ago? And they dispersed, but they're starting to come back.
we put a process in place that put reasonable inspections as far as for safety and for health on food trucks. Instead of having them pop up everywhere, sit somewhere for an hour, go, move around. We put an inspection process in, and what happened was you had the outflux happen from where at first everyone was hesitant because no one had permits. Then they've been going through the process of finding spots to set up, getting permission, going through the inspection process, and setting up. And so that's why you're seeing them coming back in, is because they're going through that process. With the prevalence of them, that's why I thought about raising that permit fee, just because I see them at that taco truck on the way home from here over at Pilot. I see one over at the old car wash just past the Margarita House. They're popping up everywhere, so it's showing that we have a strong market where people are wanting to come and do this. And so with all the extra expenses that we have with personnel and the time for getting all of this inspected, that's why I was thinking of raising those. So,
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with the budget, but what Joe said, what do the restaurant owners think about all that? That was in the original conversation, if I remember correctly.
well, they have to have so much distance from restaurants, and the ones that are operating next to restaurants have to get their permission. Los Agravos has one on their property that they run, and so they do kind of their takeout from there, and they do sit down indoors. I know I recently spoke with Thomas Lawrence about one over by Pilot, because Pilot has a Subway, and they've got a deli with all the prepackaged sandwiches. But there is a Cuban food truck that sets up over there, and from what I've heard from a few truckers, whenever I was over there, it's a pretty popular one.
What was you getting ready to say about it, Joe?
I was just saying that some communities only allow them at special events like you were speaking about, like with Parks and Rec. And that's the only way you can be permitted to have a food truck in those communities, is if it's at a special event.
Is that because you think they hurt the look of the city?
I don't know why each community, I can't speak to that, but I'm not sure the reason.
Because we went through this several years ago. I remember it pretty good. And seemed like there was a combination of things about the looks, the hurting the other restaurants, things like that.
Tom, can you come up here for a second? Since we're going down this road, let's.
Well, I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but I've been.
We're good. You're good, because I've got questions as far as from an economic standpoint. Joe said some communities ban food trucks, which can help sit downs. Other communities have them. From an economic standpoint, what do you think would be more beneficial for our community? Because
I think first you said there's a more prevalence. Certainly they're following our guidelines from a few years back. But I also think, to Joe's point, the reason they did that is because Murfreesboro started banning them, Smyrna banned them, Nashville did, so they converged here because we didn't have it. Now, I guess it's up to really all of us, but is that really what we want? A lot of times, and I think we've done a lot better job of it, because you said they would pop up and then move to another spot, but they'd come in from Nashville, not be permitted here, sell the money there they would take back, and if they were paying sales tax, they'd be paying it maybe where they're from, Davidson County or so on. Personally, I've had some very good food from food trucks, but is that really the look that we want? And if we are looking to bring in the final piece of the puzzle with the retail would be, or the commercial, is the restaurants, we are competing with that. I mean, there's only so many dollars that go around, and is that our options? Is that what we want? I don't know how you eliminate them. I don't know if you can do a full moratorium, and Joe maybe could speak to that, but I mean, personally, I would much rather not have them here, at least where they're just permanent fixtures. I don't know with the new regulations, did we see an increase in monies that came in from that, or the people that are here? I can't answer that, but
Sounds like this is something that needs to go on an agenda after the budget meetings for next month or month after, and, or get some more info on, talk about it. But is that, that's exactly what I was saying, is that something that, with you out there banging your head, and of course, other people, trying to get,
No disrespect to them, but that's not, in my opinion, it's not a pretty look. And we have certain areas of the city that's very difficult when we recruit, that we scoot by a little quicker than we do others, just because of what's going on there. Again, my question to you, or to look, or we could help do this, is why did Murfreesboro kind of ban them? Why did Nashville kind of eliminate them, or allow them to go here for a certain period of time? I think it's the same reason that you're asking me here, is what benefit to the city. I mean, no disrespect to anyone that's doing it, making a living, or even the quality of the food, but is that our long-term look that we want for the city? And that's, right now, that's totally up to y'all.
Because it wouldn't be optimal if we're trying to attract high-quality retail
Yes, ma'am.
restaurants to have food trucks. Yeah, I agree.
do they have them in, where's he at?
They have them in Murfreesboro
left.
because
I was gonna see if they had them in Nolensville.
one gas station by Sam's has 4 in the parking lot every day.
And I know, I go to church, at World Outreach Church, and we have, during the spring and fall, they have multiple food trucks set up out there. So,
That's an event.
But I think the sales tax is the big key, is where's that really getting recorded? Because your local people are definitely paying their taxes, so.
I didn't want to say that.
well, that's what I was gonna ask
Thinking you
Danielle,
could
if you
take that
could
and
look
go into-
into and pull that information to see what that number is that's being remitted for sales tax.
Going to even the health department, I mean, really, if they're in Nashville, are we really staying on, I know you are, but how, if they're mobile, how can you really stay on top of it? You can't be at all places at once. And I don't know what it was, but I do know that Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Nashville did something where they tweaked it.
Yeah, I think they did, because for a while, going back to your comment, they disappeared, even at that one gas station, but they're back now. There's
Yeah, they did.
there's 4 of them now.
I remember us working on that, and they, yeah.
And I know going down, if you drive down towards the airport, just down past the Publix in Antioch, there's
Bunch of
usually there's stands selling fruit, there's barbecue, there's smoking pits, there's all kinds of different ones over there.
So getting back to my original statement, the ones that we're talking about now, we can't make it to where they have to pay a whole lot more as opposed to the people that's coming to David's events.
No.
Well, we need to investigate. It's like Kara said, you're trying to get some good-looking stuff. And,
Come on up, Bo.
Oh.
Bo can talk to us about Mount Juliet.
Yeah.
I appreciate Bruce, because
You might want to
Bruce,
get this, Mr. Eptright.
no, I just want to say, I feel like Drake right now in the NCAA tournament. One shining moment. This is my chance to talk.
The camera is on you.
You've been sitting there all night going,
No, I just happened to work in Mount Juliet when they went through all their heavy lifting with this issue, and I'll say this, their economic development director and their mayor at the time, and he decided not to run again, but he was there about 8 years, but what it really came down to for them is they had Jonathan's coming in, they had this restaurant coming in, they had that restaurant coming in, and look what all these cities put these restaurants through. You got to put in a sidewalk. Food truck doesn't have to put in a sidewalk. You got to put in parking. Food truck doesn't have to put in parking. You got to get sewer tap fees. You got to get land disturbance fees. You got to get fee after fee after fee and permit, and end up spending millions to build your restaurant. And then these food trucks come in, and they just thought that was
Very good point.
very unfair to the businesses that invested in their community.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to in Mount Juliet. And I just couldn't sit there and not say that, because the sales tax thing really bothered me from the get-go, and who knows what happens with that reporting, but it really was I mean, look at some of the things that come in here and where's your materials board? Is it gonna be brick? Look what, and it's not just us. I mean, everybody has to do that across the state, but they just thought it was really unfair to
Those are really good points, Bo.
hire an engineer and all the costs. That's all. Thank you.
Somebody get Bo participation.
Participation trophy.
That man needs an interview.
No, all of that stuff is good, and I think maybe we got off track here a little bit because of the budget thing, but that's something we need to think about. Bo and Tom and Joe make good.
Okay, Bruce, you want to hop us on over to the technology fee?
Yes, sir. Down at the bottom of page 3, we're adding a new technology fee to help pay for EnerGov and the cost there with issuing permits. And then we're increasing the temporary use permit fee for a fireworks tent from $500 to $850.
Bruce, what's the surrounding cities doing for that?
I don't know. Did you
Joe?
check on that, Joe?
So, Smyrna, for instance, does it on previous year's sales, and it rounds out to about $850. We don't calculate it that way, but it was comparable with what Smyrna's doing.
Okay.
Okay, on page 4, as discussed, I believe at the last one, we are removing the electronic traffic citation fee that has met its sunset provision, and we cannot continue that fee as of September 1st of last year. No other changes proposed on page 4 or page 5. Page 6, this is the engineering department. Gary has recommended that we increase the construction drawing fee for the plan reviews from $50 to $55, and then add $2 to go from $20 per dwelling unit to $22 per dwelling unit or lot. And then under stormwater, the stormwater user fee, since its inception in July of 2005, has always been $3.50. So we are proposing an increase there to $4.50 per ERU. So a residential home would pay $1 more per month for that fee. I don't know if there's any questions on that or not. But it's been 20 years and we've never increased that rate, so.
What?
It's been 20 years and that rate has never increased over that time. On page 7, there again, as we spoke last time, the Parks and Recreation fees, they've submitted basically a rewrite of a lot of those fees, and all of those are listed there.
Hey, David?
Page 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask, has any since we don't have an organized league, have any of the travel ball leagues or whatever reached out to the Parks and Rec office to reserve the fields for any tournaments?
Not for tournaments, because we are not staffed to do that. When we had tournaments in the past, it was generally the organization that put that on, and we would just staff them. We don't have the ability to do the whole thing and take the money in. Now, we have had some people to reach out to rent fields for practice. What we have done is tried to hold off until July, until we can get this fee schedule in place. The old fee schedule you see is $50 per field per day. So if you came in and rented the field on a Saturday, you could have the field all day long for $50. That was an oversight on our part through the years, because when a league had it, we didn't collect any money for field rentals anyway. The league took that money in. So the fees you see there are kind of comparable to our neighboring cities, Smyrna and Murfreesboro. Their Parks Department both collect all the fees. Even if they have an organization run their tournaments, Their park department collects the fees for the tournament as set in their fee schedule and approves all the tournaments. So their organizations basically only get concessions off of it. So that's why it says, I think it says, maybe it doesn't say, but it says somewhere with provider, or maybe that's on my page back there. Anyway, that was with provider, is the only way we're gonna be able to do tournaments.
Oh, it's on down at the bottom for league use. Service provider
There
with
you go.
user
Yes, ma'am.
agreement.
Yep. So we put that in there in case a league does come back in and tries to operate. The department would still collect the fees up front, and we would be scheduling the tournaments. So if a league does come in and they have interest in hosting a tournament, our department has to schedule that and staff it and collect the fees up front.
Okay.
But we were not set up to do hour rentals, 2-hour rentals, so we put these in 2-hour time slots. Like I say, that's what our neighboring cities are doing. And we are charging for lights. If you rent a field for 2 hours, there's an upcharge for lights if you're required lights in that evening. So if this goes into effect, they'll come in, anybody that rents the field has to provide $1 million insurance policy listing the city as an additional insured. They would make their payment, and we would give them a code to the key, a code to the gate lock. Thank you.
Okay, on page 8 is planning department. There's no changes there. Page 9 is police department and the start of public works, no changes there. Page 10, you start getting into the utilities, sewer department. There's no changes on page 10. If you look on page 11, you have the usage rates for sewer, and that this coincides with the rate study that we did last year and put into effect. So the new minimum rate for residential sewer would be $23.34, and then after the initial 2,000, it's $6.05 per 1,000 gallons. And you can see the increase there over last year. Commercial obviously has changed, industrial has changed, and you can see those changes there. And then we had already spoken last time about the Blair Road sewer basin, and these are the fees that Smyrna is proposing to put in place. And so we're going to charge that same amount to pass that on. Any question on the sewer rates? Okay, on page 12, the last page at the bottom, you can see the usage charges for water. And there again, this is based on the rate study that was completed and put into place. So the new minimum rate for water would be $22.06. And then $5.69 per 1,000 after the first 2,000 gallons for residential. And also commercial, industrial has an increase as well. And that's all the changes proposed at this time for the fee schedule. I think that's all that I've got. I do want to emphasize that, you know, as we've already talked, we will need to do the bond issue for general fund for the street projects, and we will also have to do a bond issue for water and sewer projects. So I want to make sure you understand that we will be proposing 2 bond issues in the next fiscal year for all of those different projects. The bond issue for the water and sewer has not been determined exactly what that amount will be. We've got to get together and decide which projects we need to move forward with on those. That's all I've got.
The bond on the road, do you know the total number yet?
I'm sorry?
You say you don't know the cost of the bond, or how much bond for the water and sewer, but on the roads?
The roads will be 25 million.
25.
And that's to cover the next 2 years of construction on those two projects.
On the budget, you got 6 and 6, so that's 12. So how do we calculate that?
Where do you see that at?
I'm
It's
looking at
2 years, so it's, the next 12, I think, will be in the next year over.
Yeah, it's on page 3.
11 and 12, all right.
Right. Both of those are right at 12, so it's just over 24 million for the next 2 years. So this one bond issue that we're going to do in this next fiscal year will cover the next 2 years of construction on those projects. The estimated construction, I should say.
So the rest of the board, my comment on that is, 4 years ago, we sat here doing the budget, and we put out for the bond to finish Walden Road, and although it's obviously not been done, the additional cost has gone up by $13 million over 4 years. Very important project, the city. Very, very important.
I can tell you, I was getting messages today from a resident about traffic on that side of town. And Kara, you and I both get to experience it, so you see it firsthand.
What's that?
Traffic on the south side.
Well, I think the roads and stuff have been needing done for a long time, and it's hard to play catch-up when it should have been playing keep-up. So we'll take the blunt of the blow, and hopefully in years down the road, people will appreciate it.
Anything else, Bruce?
Yeah, I've got one question. On the fee schedule, Bruce, we have all the ordinance references, but we don't have them for the PDR, which obviously, I believe we do have ordinances for the PDR. That'd be good to add that into your column.
Which page is that on?
Page, let's see. No, so page 9? No, sorry, 8. Page 8. The last column on the right, ordinance and references.
Asked if he needed my glasses.
So on the last column, you have LMC ordinance references, and you have everything listed. But for the PDR, it's not, and we do have an ordinance for the PDR.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up. I don't know what that is.
Oh, up here.
And if we're, on the same token, if we're adding for the Parks and Recs, perhaps we can put something in there too, if we've not got on there for the additional fees we're going to add on, to have a reference back to the ordinance. Page 7.
Correct, and we will. It's going to be that LMC 20-208. It's for all of those fees at the top. That's the section in the municipal code for Parks and Rec fees. For some of these, we may have to rewrite some of the municipal code, but we'll have to look at that and see to make sure.
And for the board, 4 years ago, we were discussing this fee schedule. It's an important document because it does, as prices go up, as we see, it's very important to the city because this obviously brings in revenue.
That's why it's important to review this every single year since Kyle created it for us about 5 years ago.
Jules did.
Jules.
We both did. Take credit, Jules.
It was a lot of work.
Anything else, Bruce?
No, sir. Not from me.
Danielle?
No, sir.
Anything from any of the board members?
Kyle said Andrew went home. He didn't go home.
Nope, I was on cleanup crew.
We had important Nolensville questions for you.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
wanted, do they have food trucks in Nolensville?
Yes, sir.
Where?
At the Buttercup Festival,
Yeah.
when,
Events.
No, not events, just everyday sitting around use.
no. Mm-mm. Only at events. It's huge.
Andrew's a mainstay there.
It's huge. You are invited to join us.
They also have them at the farmer's market in the,
Yes.
in the late spring and through the summer. They have food trucks at the farmer's market in Nolensville.
Events.
But not just like at non-events. There's none that I'm aware of.
So if anyone's got any changes, please email that over to Bruce and Danielle because the budget will be on the next Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting
Like the one in
next week.
next week, yeah.
Mhm. So no pressure, but you got to get it done very quickly. Okay? And then we will have more discussions next Thursday. With that, call this meeting adjourned.